Hey guys, let's get more news from Miami Heat, but first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Miami Heat legend Dwayne Wade attended Kobe Bryant statue unveiling. Kobe Bryant was one of Miami Heat legend Dwayne Wade's biggest influences before entering the NBA. So it was only fitting for Wade to show up when the Los Angeles Lakers presented Bryant with the ultimate individual honor. On Thursday, the Lakers unveiled a statue of Bryant that will sit outside Crypto.com Arena to pay respects for what he meant to the organization. In January of 2020, Bryant was killed in a helicopter crash in Los Angeles. Wade was among the many friends and family on hand for the presentation. The statue features the name Kobe Bean Bryant above the words Black Mamba, his nickname for most of his 20-year Hall of Fame career. The pose was an image from the game Bryant scored 81 points against the Toronto Raptors in 2008. It remains the second high-scoring total by an individual player since Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game in 1962. Wade and Bryant shared many memorable moments during their playing careers. They faced off 20 times, with Wade winning 11 times. Their friendship reached its peak when they spent the summer together playing for the Olympics team in 2008. Like Bryant, Wade is also memorialized in front of his arena. Last month, the Heat erected a statue of Wade outside Kaseya Center to honor him as the greatest player in franchise history. Shandell Richardson covers the Miami Heat for Inside the Heat, a Fan Nation channel for Sports Illustrated. He has covered the NBA since 2010. For Miami Heat legend Dwayne Wade, it was much more. Wade used the date to pay tribute to the Kobe Bryant, who was killed in a helicopter accident in January of 2020. The significance was the numbers 8 and 24 were worn by Bryant during his 20-year Hall of Fame career. Wade took to X, the social media network formerly known as Twitter, to show his respect for the fallen icon. He posted a photo of himself playing against Bryant when they battled it out for years as opposing all-stars. The caption read, February 8, 24, followed by a snake and goat emoji. The snake was referenced to Bryant's nickname of Black Mamba, while the goat stated he belonged in the GOAT, greatest of all time, conversation. 3 buyout candidates the Miami Heat can target after quiet trade deadline. The NBA trade deadline has passed, but that doesn't mean the Miami Heat are done making moves. Similar to last season's acquisition of Kevin Love, the buyout market could offer the Heat some helpful pieces for their playoff push. It's worth noting that because of their position against the luxury tax, the Heat can only sign players from the buyout market whose 2023-24 salary is $12.4 million or less. That means Joe Harris, $19.9 million, for example, is off the table. Even though the Heat are over the cap, they can sign a player using their $5 million taxpayer mid-level exception. They have an open roster spot and are $6.5 million from the second luxury tax line, so signing a player to the full MLE won't make them a second apron tax team this season. Any player who is signed likely won't factor into Miami's immediate rotation, as that seems set with Terry Rozier, Tyler Herro, Jimmy Butler, Caleb Martin, Bam Adebayo, Jamie Jaquez Jr., Duncan Robinson, Josh Richardson, and Kevin Love. But the Heat can use depth at point guard, with Drew Smith out for the season, and forward. Here's a look at 3 free agents who are, or will likely be, available after the trade deadline and could play a role for the Heat for the rest of the season. After getting traded from Philadelphia to Detroit, Daniel House Jr. was waived by the Pistons. Multiple contenders are expected to pursue him as a free agent, according to The Athletic's Shams Charania. House is a utility forward who provides some length and a defensive presence. He's a streaky three-point shooter who has gotten worse, 30% this season, 33.6% last season, 37.6% the season prior, but has enough of a history that a good team should be willing to take a chance on a reversion. Depending on what happens with Haywood Highsmith, who missed Wednesday's game after being involved in a car accident that severely injured another person, the Heat could have a need for depth at forward. House is the best forward on the market. After making a flurry of moves at the deadline, the Pistons decided to waive Hayes, the number 7 pick in the 2020 draft. Hayes was Detroit's opening night starter at point guard but has since moved to the bench. He is averaging 6.9 points on 41.3% shooting, 29.7% from three-point range, 2.8 rebounds, and 4.8 assists this season. With Smith out for the rest of the season with a knee injury, the Heat could use some depth at point guard behind Terry Rozier and Josh Richardson. Hayes would be a good buy low option who the Heat can bring into their development system and play in a pinch. He's still just 22, and if he impresses the coaching staff could be brought back to compete for a roster spot next season. The Heat nearly traded for Gallinari in 2020, and the two sides could potentially come to an agreement 4 years later. Gallinari is not the same player he was then, but can still provide size and spacing in the frontcourt. At 35, Gallinari is a career 38% three-point shooter and decent passer for his position. He's still productive, having scored 50 points in the only 79 minutes he's played for the Pistons. With Detroit's season going nowhere, it could make sense to negotiate a buyout of Gallinari's $6.8 million salary. Gallinari wouldn't start for the Heat, but he'd be a true power forward that they could turn to in certain matchups or even some playoff minutes. He'd also be a good example for 20-year-old Nikola Jovic, who has drawn comparisons to Gallinari, to learn from. DeLon Wright, he has family ties to the Heat organization. His brother, Darrell Wright, once played for the Heat, and would be a solid reserve guard option. Even though he's posting his lowest box score number since his rookie season, he can still defend the point of attack and would provide valuable experience to the locker room. Harry Giles 3. Giles has a long injury history but has worked hard to stay in the league. He offers size, athleticism and the potential of three-point shooting, but he's definitely a project. Seth Curry. It's still unclear what the Hornets aim to do with Curry after acquiring him from the Mavericks in the PJ Washington deal. Curry is 33 and might not be interested in playing for a rebuilding team, but he's also from Charlotte and his dad, Dell, is a broadcaster for the team. Thaddeus Young, the 35-year-old forward, was traded to the Nets on Thursday and could negotiate a buyout of his $8 million expiring salary. He's experienced and useful in a minor role. Robin Lopez, traded from Milwaukee to Sacramento, then waived. Lopez should latch on to a playoff team looking for additional depth at center. If the Heat believe Lopez is a better option than Thomas Bryant and Orlando Robinson, perhaps they can bring him in. And you fan, what do you think of the Killian Hayes situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.